A few hours before the call, a small island was traveling through a storm cloud. Though no one knew at the time, something was afoot, and the island was heading to a place where it had once settled for centuries. Though thunder clapped around the island, not a single bolt of lightning struck down on it, as if something was keeping it away. At the very center of the island, in a metropolis hovering above the tallest mountain, an altar was constructed. Sitting at the very top of the altar was a massive, stunning green emerald. Fires surrounded the altar, holding gems of smaller size but similar grandeur. One emerald copied the green light of its mother. Another glowed a warm yellow. The next, a mesmerizing blue. And the fourth, a powerful violet. The penultimate of the emeralds was gray, and just looking at its light gave off a stabbing sensation. Finally, there was an emerald that was as pretty and bright as the sky of a clear day. Gazing into it would flood your brain with the sensation of being wide awake. At the top of the altar, sitting before the Master Emerald, was a red echidna. The only greeting one would get on this island was a fatal blow from his right hook. The echidna, Knuckles, was fast asleep, but remained alert despite this. Even as he rested, he could hear every noise around him, and feel the exact way the wind would blow. For some reason, things felt uneasy for him on this particular night. He was sleeping even lighter than usual. If he felt a blade of grass that was too sharp, an insect that was a little bit too aggressive, or the smallest mutation in the placement of the bricks that made up the altar, his eyes would have burst open and he would have attacked the first creature he saw. But nothing pushed him to this right away. The thunder was always irritating to Knuckles. The way it would drown everything else out at random intervals made it harder for him to sense everything that was near. Thunder rumbled in the distance, and Knuckles' eyes shot open. Lightning had struck the shore of the island. He began to calm down after a bit. This didn't happen often, but sometimes in moments of extreme turbulence, the Master Emerald's blessing on the island would become misaligned, just enough for a bolt of lightning to sneak onto the outskirts of the floating landmass. Knuckles drifted off again. For a few more minutes everything was calm. The light rain nourished the plants and gave a few hours of relief for the creatures living in the harsh desert. No matter how the rain fell, the structures on the island never seemed to erode. At least not completely. Any damage was minimal, and very much reversible. Knuckles wondered if he could ever match the genius of his ancestors, but brushed that off and continued to fulfill his purpose. Suddenly, a second bolt of lightning hit the island, with the clap of thunder being much louder. This time, Knuckles stood up. The lightning bolt had hit the mountain. Something was off. The Master Emerald's blessing should have redirected the bolt. So how did it hit the mountain? Knuckles stepped towards the edge of the altar, looking down to see if anything was different about the mountain, but it looked the same. Looking back on this, Knuckles would blame what happened next on him stepping forward, though there was no way for him to prevent what was about to occur. It was easier for him to believe that if he hadn't stepped forward and had stayed at his post, everything would be fine. There was no need for thunder. The deafening sound of lightning striking behind Knuckles made his blood go cold. Knuckles whipped around, and he stared at the center of the altar. His purpose had just been completely destroyed. Everything he had been protecting through his entire life was suddenly just gone. Words could not describe the grief he felt, but simply, "We're all doomed," ran through his head. Knuckles' fear, confusion, and sadness shifted to rage as he saw what stood in the remains of the Master Emerald. It was a tall creature, blue with green eyes, and something pulsing in its head. It reached its long arms up, but before it could do anything, the emeralds at the top of the spire reacted, and were sent flying in different directions. The creature made no sound, but its body shifted for a second, as if it was beginning to seethe with anger. Knuckles then had enough of this and began to shout, "What did you do?" The creature paid Knuckles no mind, and instead began watching the trails of the Chaos Emeralds, as well as the shards of the Master Emerald as they all flew away. Knuckles ran towards the altar and held his right fist out. He attempted to summon a flame of energy around it, but nothing came out. "You'll regret this!" Knuckles struck the figure, but his fist went right through it, and it didn't react at all. Knuckles was extremely confused, and that confusion only fueled his anger. He tried to hit the creature with his left fist, but it caught his hand and twisted his entire body onto the ground. It began to walk away, but Knuckles got up. "Where do you think you're going?" Knuckles tried to use his chaos energy yet again, but he still couldn't summon it. This made him even angrier.
What's going on? What are you?
Knuckles punched at the creature's back in frustration, but it did no damage. The creature turned around again and smacked Knuckles across the face, knocking him back. Before his head hit the ground, the creature's arm extended and threw him over its head. Knuckles then fell down the staircase, getting more bruised and bloody with each fall. The creature walked down the stairs at the same time, making Knuckles even angrier. When he was finally able to get his footing at the bottom, he held his fist up, but then noticed something. The creature's body was dripping somehow. Before Knuckles could react, it flicked him in the chest. Then he understood it. It was made out of water. That's why none of his attacks were connecting. Knuckles caught himself with his fist on the ground and then launched himself forward, trying to hit the pulsating part of the creature's body, but it sidestepped him, hitting his neck with a swift chop and sending him into the ground. Knuckles began to lose consciousness, and he saw the creature leap away. As he blacked out, he could feel rumbling all around him as gravity began to take its course. It's been a busy morning for the higher-ups of the United Federation. Most of them have been arguing about whether they should suppress the information from the general public or allow the island's existence to be known. They eventually decide to leave the exploration in the hands of the Science Division, and as the officials argue, news of the island leaks anyway via social media. It isn't long before press gets a hold of the information, and the rest is easy to guess. People in the streets clamoring about the fallen island, conspiracy theorists running rampant. Anyone around heard constant speaking of this topic. Do you think it's actually true? What will this mean for the economy? Does this help or hurt my religious beliefs? However, for some, this was just an ordinary day. The 14-year-old blue hedgehog is laying in a red and white striped lawn chair, wearing sunglasses, drinking a large soda, and listening to indie rock music. As he's laying down, a young 9-year-old rabbit walks up to him, carrying a newspaper in her hand. Cream the rabbit goes over to her older brother and tries to get his attention.
Sonic, I need to show you something. Will you please take those off?
It takes a lot of light shoving from Cream, but Sonic eventually takes his headphones off and addresses Cream.
Hey, I'm trying to relax over here. What is it? Sonic, why did it take so long to get your attention?
I didn't hear you. The people around here won't shut up about whatever they're on about, so I gotta have my tunes on loud.
Okay, well, I need you to look at this.
Cream shows Sonic the newspaper that's in her hands.
Hey, not right in my face.
Cream points to an article about the fallen island. People are saying an island fell out of the sky last night. Is that what everyone's so happy about? Come on, you can't believe everything you read in the news. Sonic then points to another article. See, man eats 72 chili dogs in 10 minutes. This is what we should be talking about.
Sonic, there could be all sorts of interesting things that could be on the island. Maybe even angel babies.
Angel babies?
The little creatures from my cartoons. They're small little creatures that come out of eggs and have all sorts of weird and interesting things about them. It's said that they come from the heavens, and they could be on the island. It did fall from the sky after all.
Cream, there's no such thing as angel babies.
How do you know? You've never been there.
I don't need to. I just know.
Oh, well I dare you to go there, and if you find any, you have to bring one back for me.
Heh. Maybe I will, but if I go there and there are none, you're making my chili dogs for the rest of the year.
Deal.
Sonic and Cream shake hands. Sonic then gets up and stretches. Just thought about it. How am I gonna get there? The article said the island's near the Mystic Ruins, and that's a continent over. I can't exactly run there, can I? Why not just get a boat? Sonic looks at the beach beside him. Water. No thanks. Sonic thinks a little longer. Well, there's not much I can do, unless a plane happens to conveniently fall out of the sky. Suddenly, a plane falls out of the sky and lands on the shore nearby. Sonic sticks his finger up. I'll be right back. Sonic starts to run off.
Wait.
Sonic awkwardly pauses his running off. Should I ask Mom to make dinner for you? Dinner? I'll be back before lunch. Sonic speeds across the pool and starts running towards the beach, but a security guard yells at him. Hey, the beach is closed right now. You can't go in there. Sonic leaps the fence and completely disregards him. Suck it, blue jeans! Sonic speeds across the beach. The guard tries to get up to chase him, but a nearby lifeguard, a pink hedgehog around Sonic's age, stops him.
Give it up. You're not gonna catch him. He's the fastest thing alive.
Sonic dashes around the beach. The sun reflects on him, giving his blue quills highlights. He runs past the empty umbrellas and the lawn chairs that were set out by the owners of the beach and onto the pier. He slows down slightly as he goes across the water, just in case, but keeps up a decent speed. He continues running until he gets out of the part of the beach that's owned by the hotel. This leads into the more rocky and jagged areas. Heh, time for the fun parts. Sonic jumps onto the wall and starts leaping on the more jagged rocks on it. As he jumps from rock to rock, he feels something crack under his shoe. He looks down and notices the foothold he was on has completely shattered. Sonic panics and tries to grab one of the rocks above him, but it's just out of reach. As he starts sliding down the edge of the hill, his eyes dart from side to side as he looks for an out. But there aren't any rocks directly in his path. Sonic panics as he careens forward into the ocean below, but just before he's engulfed in the water, he hits something hard that briefly emerges from the surface. Sonic uses this as an opportunity and launches off of it to grab onto a rock near the bottom. He then scampers to the top of a hill and wipes sweat off of his forehead while sighing in relief. Sonic runs down the other side of the hill, toward a loop in the terrain that leads to a massive pike. This place really was a playground for Sonic because of his gift of speed. He was fast enough to get around most of the obstacles in the area, and his inability to swim filled every jump with enough adrenaline to entertain him for hours. This was already the most difficult part for him, but if he could make this loop, he had enough momentum to complete the course. Sonic rushed up to the ramp and repeatedly bent back in order to keep his momentum going. Eventually, he made it to the top, briefly hanging entirely upside down, but continuing to run. It was easy from here. He started to lean forward, putting as much weight as he could on each foot, until he completed the loop, rewarding him with enough momentum to run straight to the top of the pike. Sonic jumped just as he reached the summit and held his arms up in triumph. Hell yeah! That's how it's done! Sonic ran down the pike and ended up at an older pier. This one had fallen into disrepair a bit and was mainly used for observing sea life. However, though it was popular among tourists, the locals in Station Square didn't really care about it, so it eventually closed. Sonic stopped for a moment to catch his breath. He looked at the smoke. It was only a mile or so away now. Alright, so far so good. Sonic watches his step on the old pier. He once fell through an older plank of wood and had to hold onto the support beams for 3 hours until Cream showed up to bail him out. As he tries across the planks, he sees the water below him start to ripple a bit. Sonic tries his best to ignore it, but it's clear that there's something close to him. He looks to his right again, and he sees a fin coming out of the water. A black fin. Sonic starts to pick up the pace, and he can feel the boards below him creaking as he moves faster. Then, without warning, the back of the bridge bursts open as an orca whale jumps out to try and eat Sonic. Sonic's eyes widen as he freezes for a second. Hey! The whale then fixes its eyes on Sonic and starts swimming towards him, breaking through the bridge to get to him. Sonic turns around and starts sprinting. Whoa, 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 chill out, please, 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 chill out. The whale doesn't chill out. It keeps going faster and faster as it breaks through the boards. Sonic looks back at it once and instantly regrets it, as he nearly avoids its jaws clapping down on him. At one point, a board breaks below Sonic as he's running, and he has to catch himself with his arms and push himself forward in order to avoid getting eaten. Sonic then continues to speed across the pier, but almost runs directly off of it as it comes to a sharp left turn. Sonic quickly plants his left hand on the ground and corrects his momentum, kicking the safety railing on the edge of the pier as he dashes to his left. The whale does even worse though, breaking through that part of the pier entirely, unable to stop as it hunts its prey. Sonic runs in silence for a moment. He almost makes the mistake of thinking he's safe, but the boards behind him break as the whale begins chasing him once again. Seriously? Do I look that tasty to you? The whale keeps pursuing its lunch until Sonic eventually reaches the end of the pier. He launches himself off of it and onto a small island nearby. The whale tries for a few moments to grab Sonic, but it eventually gets overzealous and throws itself onto the island. Sonic dodges to the right to avoid being eaten, but the whale flops onto the sand and isn't able to move from there. Sonic looks at the whale and giggles a little bit. Yeah, that's what you get. Too bad for you. Sonic steps over the beached whale's tail and starts heading towards the smoke. The whale then lets out a self-pitying blub. Sonic stops and clenches his fists. Fine. Luckily for Sonic, the whale is small enough for him to drag, and he's able to pull it back into the ocean. It looks at him for a second and then swims off. Sonic is pretty close to the smoke now, so he starts walking in its direction. Sweet, right over there. My sandwiches will still be warm once I get home. Sonic gets closer to the crash site, but notices that he's not alone there. There are a few odd machines surrounding it. Sonic tries to figure out what's going on, but is then knocked over as something rams into his legs. Sonic falls forward and rolls onto his back. Looking behind him, some odd ladybug-themed machine ran into him. Hey, watch where you're going!
The Motobug turns around and scans Sonic's appearance. It begins to speak.
Hedgehog Mobian. This place is off limits to your kind. By the law of the United Federation Science Division, you must leave immediately.
That was a lot of words. Anyways, I need a plane, so I'm going that way. Sonic continues walking towards the edge of the crash site. The Motobug then starts revving its engine.
Warning ignored. Deploying lethal measures.
The Motobug charges at Sonic. Sonic barely jumps out of the way in order to avoid it. Hey, stop it, jerk! The Motobug continues charging around for a bit until Sonic catches it and throws it as far as he can into the ocean. Jeez, what's that guy's problem? Sonic makes it to the back of the hill that the plane crashed onto. Several robots, unlike the Motobug, stand around it. They're bigger, about the height of Sonic, but thick and orange, shaped like a rotund human. Sonic walks by one in order to get to the crash site. When it sees him, it tries to stop him.
Hedgehog, this site is off limits to those who are unaffiliated with the Science Division. Leave now.
Shut up. The world is the world. No one can say you can't go somewhere just because they all want the cool stuff there.
It is unsafe here. Leave.
I just outran a killer whale. That was unsafe. I think I can handle a little fire. Sonic continues towards the crash site, but the eyes of the egg pawn turn red as they alert their commander. A short, bald man dressed in green clothing walks away from the site. He's very annoyed that he's being called away from his work, but is even more angry when he sees that he was called away just because of a disrespectful young Mobian in a white t-shirt. He almost ignores it, but remembers his job and gets up. What are you doing here? My associates should have given you the warnings to leave more than clearly. They did. I just don't care. I want a plane. That's why you're here? Yeah? Do you even know how to do you even know how to fly a plane? Can't be that hard. Snively snaps his fingers. Detain him. The Eggplons turn aggressive and start to chase after Sonic. Sonic quickly runs past them. His speed catches Snively's attention. How did he... The Eggplons point at Sonic, who's now standing at the top of the hill. Just let me have the plane, you ass. You clearly could make your own. Sonic jumps onto the head of one of the Eggplons, pushing its head in. He then launches off of it and kicks the other in the chest, knocking it into the ground. Sonic then picks it up by the legs and swings it into the last one, throwing them both into the ocean. Snively sighs. I suppose you're going to require some extra force. The sand around Snively's feet starts to break away as a massive crab meat crawls out of the ground. Snively crawls into its window and places his hands around the steering wheel. Sonic steps back, a little intimidated by the oversized badnik. Now do you understand what you're up against? I will give you one last chance. Lay down with your hands over your head and I'll have you dealt with properly. Otherwise... Snively snaps the crab meat's claws. Sonic then steps forward and smirks. Well, they do say the bigger they are, the harder they fall. Snively laughs at his opponent and swings at him with his claw. Sonic flips back, looking for an opening. He grabs the machine's claw as it swings its arm up. He leaps at one of its eyes, but it moves its eye out of the way, and Sonic falls back onto the sand below. Snively continues snapping at Sonic. You should know something. Dr. Robotnik is the owner of all the world's mysteries. He is the only person in the world who's smart enough to decode the secrets and the whispers of the ancient civilizations. You could never hope to match his wit. Snively raises the badnik's right claw and smacks the ground with it, sending a shockwave through the sand that makes Sonic lose his balance. The machine then snaps at Sonic and he has to kick his legs to push himself out of the way. He then sees his opening and runs forward to punch the machine's glass, cracking it slightly. Snively smirks when he sees this. What's wrong? Can you not break my robot's tough armor? Sonic continues pounding on the glass, and it cracks a little more each time, but Snively eventually has enough of this and brings both of his claws down at the same time, forcing Sonic to flip out of the way again, as an even larger shockwave rings out across the sand. Snively wastes no time and starts snapping at Sonic relentlessly. Sonic continues stepping back as Snively attempts to cut him in half. Sonic feels something cold on his right heel as he notices he's stepped into the ocean. He can't go back much farther, and he knows that in a second he'll have to dash forward, so he starts counting in his head as he takes each step, waiting for any sign of Snively slowing down. 1, 2, 3, 4! Sonic dashes forward on the fourth snap. He ducks under the large claw's attack and kicks one of the legs of the machine, knocking it off balance for a moment. Sonic then jumps above the larger claw's arm and lowers his left leg. He kicks down the arm and uses the force of his body as much as he can. eventually able to break through the metal beams and force the arm off of the rest of the machine. No, you fool! What do you think you're doing? Do you realize how expensive that was? Snively pounds the controls and tries to hit Sonic with a smaller claw, but Sonic dashes up to the machine's face again and hits it repeatedly. This time he damages the leg so much that it can barely stand. He then runs back, and to Snively's surprise, stops his attack and starts huddling into a ball. What? Did I scare him somehow? Now it's time for my special attack. Sonic starts spinning in place. Steam starts coming out behind him as he revs his internal engine more and more. Spin dash! Snively's mouth gapes open as Sonic shoots towards him at lightning speed, hitting the machine and knocking it several feet back. It then starts sinking into the ocean. Snively quickly opens the hatch and calls for a rescue group. Sonic looks over at the scene and whistles. Whew. That's what happens when you pick a fight with me. Anyways, finally, let's see what's going on here. Sonic walks over to the crash plane, waving the smoke away from his nose so he can breathe. In the wreckage of the plane, he can see a green light coming out of the ground. Sonic gets distracted by it. What is this? Sonic reaches down and grabs the source of light, a green diamond-shaped stone. He looks into it and becomes mesmerized by his reflection in the gem. He gets more and more lost in his reflection, but snaps back to reality when he hears yelling from inside the plane. Don't touch that! Someone then snatches the gem out of Sonic's hand. Sonic blinks a few times in confusion and then looks ahead of him. A yellow fox in a white cardigan and dress pants carrying a wrench quickly puts the stone in some kind of cylindrical container. The container was lined with black and yellow warning tape. Relax, Wait, you're alive? Of course I am. This isn't my first crash. Maybe my most painful, but definitely not my first. Well, that's a bit of a problem. What? What do you mean? This was a whole lot easier when you were dead. I could just take the plane and go, but you being alive complicates things. So could you go back to being dead for me? What? No! Worth a try. Why do you want my plane anyways? I want to check out the island that fell. It seems cool. Do you know how to fly a plane? Why do people keep asking me that? Is it really that difficult? Yes! I don't believe you. Whatever. You wouldn't be able to fix this one anyways. It's damaged beyond repair. How did you crash it anyways? The engine overheated. I was trying out a new power source and a lot went wrong. Sonic points to the emerald. Is that the power source? Yes. How did you know? Dunno, I just kinda figured. Well yeah, that's the power source. It's an artifact from the Fallen Island. Cool. Can I touch it? No, it's not safe. It did something to me when I found it. Tails moves his second tail from behind his back and onto the other one. What? It made you grow a second tail? Well... No, not really. I'm just messing with you. I was born this way. But still, I picked up a lot of radiation from this thing when I scanned its energy signature. Oh, got it. Sonic is still very freaked out and too absorbed by Tails' extra extremity to put together what he just said. Wait, so did you say you've been to the island? Yeah, I have. Could you show me how to get there? Well, no, sorry. There's not an easy way to get to the island, so I can't just point you in a direction and guarantee you'll make it. Oh. Sonic starts to walk away. Well, thanks anyways. Tails thinks for a moment, but then perks up. But maybe we can go together. I wanted to go back there, but I could use all the help I can get. Sonic turns around excitedly. Really? Yeah, it'll probably be fun. Thank you. Tails walks over to Sonic. Let's head back to my house. That can be our home base. Sure, okay. Sonic and Tails start walking back to the pool together. So, what's your name, by the way? Oh, I'm Miles. Miles per hour. Sounds good, Tails. Sure, you can call me whatever. Let's get it. Sonic starts speeding back. Wait, I can't run that fast. Tails chases after Sonic as fast as he can. This would mark the start of an incredible adventure, one that the entire world would remember for generations. Little did Sonic know that at this very moment, he started running towards something that he wouldn't be able to avoid.